Just gotten to Birmingham and I wanted to give you a quick room tour of my hotel room because it's in a newly reopened hotel, the Grand Hotel, which has not been open since 2002, I think. So it's been closed for 20 years and just reopened a few months ago. And then the country went into lockdown. So this is probably one of the first few weeks that it's been fully operational. And I was so excited to see this hotel online that I had to come stay here. It's in a beautiful building, which I'll show you as the weekend goes along. But here is a quick tour of the Grand Deluxe Double room. This is what you see when you first walk in. There is a modern heating and cooling system, which I love to see, air conditioning. And this is the main bedroom. On the left as you come in is the bathroom. Hello. And it's got this really cool graphic tile floor, a sink that has plenty of space to put your toiletries, and the toiletries come from molten brown. I didn't get a room with a bathtub, which is totally fine by me. Actually, I don't feel super excited to take baths when it's hot outside, but I did get this really spacious shower with subway tile, a handheld shower, and a rain shower. The room comes with robes, and that towel rack is heated because I touched it after I washed my hands and it is very warm. There is a full-length mirror here, and the room actually is very spacious. It is a king-size bed. At least I hope it's not two twins pushed together, but originally I did book a twin room because it was significantly less expensive, and they upgraded me to this room out of the goodness of their hearts. So it looks out over here onto, I believe this is Colmar Square or Colmar Street. I will add a correction if I am wrong, but there is a bus stop outside, and these windows are totally silent. Like, you can't hear the buses at all. The room comes with a little sitting area, and this table is definitely big enough to have dinner at. I was lucky enough to score a table tonight at this restaurant's soft opening. It is the soft opening of Isaac's, which is the New York style bistro in this hotel. So it's not open to the public yet, and I'm so excited to dine there. Also, I'm excited to not have to try to figure out what to eat on my first night in Birmingham. But this room has such good vibes. It feels very open, very spacious. There's a mirror, headboard, hello, a giant TV you can see behind me, and there's lots of art sprinkled around the rooms, which feels great. It feels very light and very airy. There's a old-fashioned touch, new-fashioned phone, hand sanitizing gel, and an entire suite of storage here with, you know, the coffee setup, the tea setup. There's an espresso machine, cups down here, and a wardrobe, ironing board, and iron. Here is the mini bar. I don't know if there's anything inside. I didn't ask for anything special. There is fresh milk, but not much else. Waters. And something really nice is that the room comes with a yoga mat, so you can work out on the go. I think so many people are used to doing home workouts after the last year or so. It's quite nice to have a yoga mat in the room. So I just got here to Birmingham. I literally just dropped my stuff off in the room, and I always like to do the room tour before I completely mess the room up. So I'm gonna go ahead and do that and put my stuff all over the room. I also got an iced coffee. They have Tim Hortons here in Birmingham, which I'm really excited about. I am not like a huge Tim Hortons person because I'm not Canadian, but when I do come across one, I do like to, you know, have a coffee from Tim Hortons because it's really good. I also did get a honey glazed donut, so good. I'm gonna go ahead and put my stuff around the room. I am here for a few days, and I'm so excited to have my first semi-travel adventure, even though I'm only like an hour and 10 minutes away from Oxford.
Wish I could say I was finally over you, but that's not the truth.
and it's time for breakfast. I haven't done anything, so just, put on a mask. Gonna go for breakfast because I'm so hungry and I really need a coffee, but it's kind of a cloudy day out today so far. We'll see if the sun comes out later, but first, I need some eggs and coffee.
An option to be someone else, I would, and let go of you. I know that I'm obvious, fuck it, I'm made this way, but why didn't I stay when I had the chance? Maybe it will pass by, someone save me for a pass out. I'm too lonely to be done in my drink at this pace. Yeah.
Okay, it's Saturday and I'm here in Victoria Square, but none of the museums are open yet. It's not like Oxford and London where the museums are open, so I'm gonna get a coffee instead and then think about what to do next. I decided to come down to Chinatown to see what I can get for lunch down here, so it looks promising. What's up, guys? I'm back in my hotel room. It's a little bit of a mess behind me. During COVID times, I've stayed in a hotel maybe, I guess like 3 times since I left Hong Kong in December. So in Hong Kong, I was living in a hotel and it was very different there because the virus was very controlled in Hong Kong. And then I came to England and I stayed in a hotel for a few days before moving into my apartment in December. But since then, I've really just been living in my apartment and I haven't gone anywhere because England has been this sort of semi-lockdown state and restrictions only started lifting really a few weeks ago. So this is the first time I've left Oxford and I've stayed in a hotel. And I guess during COVID times, and this was the same in December when I stayed in that hotel in Oxford, housekeeping is not as regular in hotels, even if you're staying in a really nice hotel. Even here, housekeeping is sort of elective, and it's more regular than, I guess, the Marriott that I was staying in Oxford in December. Here, yesterday, I just put that tag on my door that says, please, clean the room. And I left for a few hours, and when I came back, the room was made up. But this morning I did it again, and I didn't notify them at the front desk that I was leaving, and my room was just in the state that I left it when I came back, which is actually totally fine, to be honest. Sometimes when I travel, I just put the do not disturb sign on my door the entire time because if I don't need someone coming into my room every day, it's really not a big deal for me not to have my bed made every day. I don't need millions of new towels and stuff like that. The one thing I really do like, though, that housekeeping does is I like it when they refresh the toiletries in the bathroom because everything's so little and I have a lot of hair, so I use a lot of shampoo and conditioner. So I like to have new toiletries every day. So I know this is such a random weekend trip. I wanted to go somewhere from Oxford that wasn't London because I've been going in and out of London a couple of times just to see friends and to do like admin work. And I also find London not relaxing to spend more than like a day or two in. Maybe it's because it reminds me so much of my grad school days living there, which I loved, but was very intense. And London is so big and it's so sprawling. It's what, like 30 something boroughs, and it's just massive. I also find it to be extremely expensive, and hotels there are expensive. So I wanted to go somewhere that was sort of close to Oxford, so within 2 or 3 hours by direct train. I didn't want to transfer buses and trains just to go somewhere for the weekend. And I wanted to go somewhere where I could stay somewhere nice for not that much money. And that, I feel like I make a lot of decisions about travel based on that. I do want to have as nice of an experience as possible without spending like $500 a night in a hotel, because it's just not really worth it to me at this stage in my life. So when I was looking around, I looked on the train maps and the bus maps to see where I could go from Oxford directly, and Birmingham came up. I have never been to Birmingham before this weekend, and to be honest, I don't know if this was like the best weekend to come to Birmingham, because so many cultural institutions are still closed. All the public museums are still closed until July. The biggest museum, the art museum, is actually closed until next year because they're doing renovations. So there were a lot of things that weren't really available to go explore and to go see. A lot of like touristy things aren't completely ramped up yet since the reopening, but that is okay, because for me, and I have to keep on reminding myself this, and I don't know if you have to do this too, but I really booked this weekend away for rest and relaxation. And not like my life is so stressful or anything, but I have been finding it kind of hard to sleep. My sleep cycles have been so messed up in the past few weeks. I think it's because, and I feel so dumb saying this, but I think it's because of the weather. It's not even that hot, but it's so hot in my apartment in Oxford because I live on a top floor, and buildings in England, I think by and large modern buildings in England, because it's mostly cooler climate-wise here in Oxford, for example, it's usually cool, like 50 weeks out of the year, it's like 65 degrees or less. And so most buildings are actually built to efficiently retain heat. And most buildings, like I mentioned in my last video when I bought that very fancy fan, most buildings don't have central air conditioning, most residential buildings. So those two things combined, plus living on the top floor, and I love the light that I get in my apartment, but because of that light, because I get so much sun, my apartment is so hot, and I have not been able to sleep because it's so hot and it retains heat all night. Plus I live on a street that's relatively quiet, except that every single bus coming in and out of the city drives up and down my street. So all night the buses are just going, and I don't know if you live in a place where there are lots of public buses, but public buses are so noisy. This is something, obviously, like I grew up in New York City. New York City buses are crazy noisy, and here they're also noisy. Bus noise technology has really not changed in the past 50 years. So I've had so much trouble sleeping, and it really got to a point. I said to my personal trainer the other day, I train at a gym, and I was having a really bad training session where I couldn't lift the weights that I had been lifting even a week before. I couldn't do pull-ups. I felt really crummy, and I realized it was because I really hadn't had a good night's sleep of more than 4 or 5 hours a night for probably an entire month. And so I knew that I couldn't figure out what was going on. And I have not ever been a really good sleeper. I've always been kind of a bad sleeper ever since I was a kid, but this level of insomnia where I really wanted to sleep and I couldn't pinpoint any reason why I would be having sleep anxiety or any normal reason. Like sometimes if I have work stress, I won't be able to sleep, but for like maybe a week or two or for a few days here and there, but never for an entire month in a row. And so what I decided to do was I decided to change my environment to see if my sleep would get better. And so I was like, I want to stay in a hotel, and maybe like a different mattress, air conditioning, a controlled, quiet environment, maybe that will help. And it has helped, although my sleep cycle, like the actual timing has not really gotten better. This is an Aura ring. I mentioned it in a video a few months ago. And this thing tracks like everything about me, from how many times I breathe every minute to my sleep and deep sleep, light sleep, REM sleep, how much I move during the night, my heart rate, all that stuff. And what I have found is that even though I do sleep, I think I'm sleeping more soundly, I am still only getting about 4 hours of sleep a night. So it's still a work in progress. All of that TLDR to say that I came to Birmingham because I figured if I was going to stay in a hotel, I might as well stay in a hotel in a city I've never been to before and sort of explore the city during the day in a very low pressure way. So it's actually good that it's not like millions of things are open and I have the sense of FOMO of not going to see all these attractions. It's actually good. It's an enforced sort of low-key tourism-ish weekend in a city I've never been to. It's still pretty quiet outside. It's not super busy. Even it's Saturday afternoon right now, and the city center is wild. I mean, there's so many people walking around in cocktail dresses at 1 o'clock in the afternoon, which is that I wish I was like a street style photographer here, because it's really something. I've never seen that before. But I have to keep on reminding myself that I am here on a weekend of rest and relaxation, and like consciously reminding myself of that. I think it's good. I think this is a good thing. I think it's done me a world of good for the past couple of nights to sleep in a more controlled environment, to change my environment, to see if doing that can help me do better sleep-wise in the weeks to come. I think without sleep, everything else I'm doing has been really impacted. I've really been focusing on training in the past couple of months. I've been training with a new trainer over the past 9 weeks. I'm really enjoying it. It is a completely different type of training than I was doing in Hong Kong, which was much more like, full circuit, like pretty consistent, like very, very low calories. Here in England, I'm working with a trainer called Sophie at my gym, and she has put me on a program, a 12-week cycle of progressive overload. And she has actually told me that this actually makes perfect sense. She has asked me to more than double the number of calories I was eating. And I'm sure you can tell I have gained weight over the past few months, partially because of lockdown. I actually gained like 5 kilos, like maybe like that. Is that like a little bit over 10 pounds? About 10 pounds during the 4 months we were in lockdown, which is completely expected because the weather was not great, so I couldn't really do my steps, but also it was cold and I didn't have weights and there were no gyms open. So I went back into the gym about 10 pounds heavier than I left Hong Kong. But over the last few months in Hong Kong, at the end of last year, I put on weight as well because gyms were also closed and Hong Kong was under semi-lockdown and our office was closed for a few weeks. So even though I am heavier and I'm really trying to get into the right mind frame about this, I have gotten so much stronger over the past few weeks training with Sophie. And I have also, because I've been eating more, and the reason I have to eat more is because my metabolism had slowed down so much from 2 years of eating very, very, very low calories. And I don't want to say exactly how many calories I was eating because I think that it's different for everybody. And so I don't want people to think that like eating this number of calories will, help me drop weight really fast. I dropped weight really, really fast because in Hong Kong I went to a transformation gym and that is their whole thing, right? They want you to drop weight really, really fast. But unfortunately I stayed on those calories for so long that for all intents and purposes, in layman's terms, I broke my metabolism. And even when I was eating extremely low calories and working out really hard 3 times a week and taking 15,000 steps a day, I was still sitting at about 32% body fat. And that didn't budge for months. And it's because my body was so stressed, eating so few calories. When I came here and I started working with a new trainer, she suggested I try to reach a different level of homeostasis where I was feeding myself enough to get all of my nutrients eat an appropriate number of calories for a woman of my age, of my height, of my bone density, of my like bone structure, and get my body to a point where it's not freaking out every day and worried that it won't have enough calories, and so it's conserving everything it could. I'm still working on that. I think it'll take a few months before I level out, and then the idea is to cut, but do it in a way that is not super extreme and doesn't last for 2 years at a time. It has to go in cycles, right? It has to be something that your body doesn't completely adapt to, because what happens is, and this makes perfect sense, what happens is that you get to a point where there's nowhere else for you to go. Like, I couldn't cut my calories any more than I was eating in Hong Kong, and I didn't really have time to take any more than 15,000 to 18,000 steps a day, and I couldn't really work out more in terms of weightlifting and training than I was already. So there was nowhere else for me to go, and I felt really stuck. And hopefully this new approach, which is a widely accepted, like much more modern approach to fat loss and to health and to long-term training success, hopefully this is something that will work better for me. And I really do feel so much better now. I feel so much stronger. I am able to do things. I can do pull-ups, like weighted pull-ups, not like 100% like on my own pull-ups, but I can do things now that I was physically unable to do in terms of weightlifting just 8 weeks ago. So I'm really happy with the progress I've been making. So that's a little update on my life. I just rambled about random things for the past 15 minutes. I have another full day here in Birmingham, although I am trying to take it easy. So I'm just going to chill out, maybe walk around a little bit more. I really like the city. The vibe is so good. It feels it's so much friendlier than London. It's such a diversity. I love super diversities where you see all different kinds of people. I love the feeling of being in a city that is so multicultural. The food here has been amazing. The weather has been so great. This hotel is so nice. It's been quiet, but just bustling enough where I feel like there's something going on. And I don't know, it's just really good vibes here. And I'm really happy that I came to Birmingham this weekend. I'm heading back tomorrow on the train, and so yeah, we'll play it out from here.